Now let's talk about operations with fractions. We're going to start with multiplication and division because actually that's easier than addition and subtraction. With multiplication with fractions, you simply multiply straight across. So like in this case, 2 times 3 will give you 6, 5 times 4 will give you 20, and then you do, just like we did a while ago, you always want to reduce your final answer. Now, when you're dividing, you actually do end up multiplying, but one part that you have to be very careful with division is the fraction that comes right after the division sign, you end up flipping. This is called multiplying by the reciprocal. So in this case, 4/5 divided by 2/3 is the same thing as 4/5 times that flip fraction, which is 3/2. And then again, you multiply straight across. Notice in this answer, if they had an improper fraction, just like we did on the previous slide, you do want to change it into a mixed number. Now, how do you know if you have an improper fraction? Just as a reminder, if your numerator is larger than your denominator, then you want to divide these two in order to change it to a mixed number. So let's look at some examples. In this case, 4/9 times 3/5. Again, all you have to do with multiplication is multiply straight across. So 4 times 3 would give you 12. And then 9 times 5 will give you 45. Now, again, you do want to make sure that your fraction is reduced. In this case, 12/45 can be reduced by dividing both the numerator and denominator by 3. This is a good opportunity for you to put this in your calculator and then hit the fraction key to check to see if it's reduced. Now, also keep in mind your calculator will do these operations with fractions as long as you're using that A, B over C key in order to type in your fraction. So I would hit 4, this key, and then 9, and then your multiplication, and then 3, this key, and then 5, and it'll give it to you as a simplified fraction. Now, this one here is a whole number being multiplied by a fraction. Anytime you have a whole number, you can rewrite it as a fraction by rewriting it as 6/1. So 6/1 times 2/3, again, I'm going to multiply straight across here. 6 times 2 is going to give me 12. 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. This is no good because this is an improper fraction. So we'll say 3 goes into 12 4 times, and notice it goes into it evenly. There's no remainder. If it goes into it evenly, then my final answer would just be 4. I wouldn't rewrite it as 0/3 because, again, I don't have a remainder. Now this one says the cost of a vacation is $4,500 and you're required to pay 1/5 of that amount when you reserve the trip. How much will you have to pay when you reserve the trip? Now, looking for key words here. If you have a fraction of something, of after a fraction always indicates multiplication. So what we're saying is if we do 4,500 over 1 and we take 1/5 of that amount, that's how much you'll have to pay when you reserve the trip. So multiplying straight across would give us 4,500. 1 times 5 will give us 5. If we divide these two to change it to a mixed number, notice these divide evenly. So the amount that you would have to reserve for the trip would be $900. Now let's look at some examples of division. So remember with division, you want to keep that first fraction. So I'm going to keep to the 2/9. I want to change it to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip that second fraction. So multiplying straight across at this point, 6 times 2 will give me 12. 1 times 9 will give me 9. This is no good. This is an improper fraction. So 9 will go into 12 one time. 1 times 9 gives me 9. This is a remainder of 3 left over. So rewriting this would be 1 3/9. I want to keep going here because this is not reduced. I can divide both these by 3. So dividing them both by 3 is going to give me 1/3. So 1 1/3 would be my final answer. Now, anytime you're doing multiplication and division, it is very difficult to do that with a mixed number. So what you want to do first is change both of your mixed numbers, in this case, to improper fractions. So 3 times 5 gives me 15. 15 plus 2 is going to give me 17 over 3. I'm not going to flip anything yet. I'm just going to rewrite this as an improper fraction. 2 times 7 gives me 14. 14 plus 5 gives me 19. Now that I've got them both written as improper fractions, I'm going to rewrite my division as 7/3 times 7/19. Now that I've flipped it, I'm going to multiply straight across. So if we do 17 times 7, that's going to give you 119. 3 times 19 is going to give you 57. Improper fraction again, so I want to fix that and rewrite it as a mixed number. So how many times does 57 go into 119? Well, it'll go in there evenly, well, it'll go in there a whole number of 2. 2 times 57 is going to give me 114. Subtract to get my remainder, so subtracting these two would give me a remainder of 5. So my mixed number here would be a whole number of 2. My remainder is 5. I'm going to keep my denominator the same as my improper fraction, which is 57. This cannot be reduced, so that would be my final answer. Now this word problem says a child needs to take 2.5 tablespoons of medicine per day in 4 equal doses. How much medicine is in each dose? So think about what's going on here. We have 2.5 tablespoons of medicine per day, and then we want to do it in 4 equal doses. So what are we doing? We're taking this 2.5 tablespoons and we're splitting it apart into 4 doses. We don't want to give the medicine all at one time. We're taking something and we're splitting it up. So if we want to take the 2.5 and split it over 4 doses, let's look at what that looks like. 2 1/2 divided by 4. There's a lot going on here. First, we want to write each one of these as improper fractions. So 2 times 2 gives me 4. Plus 1 would give me 5. Now I want to write 4 as a fraction, which would be 4 over 1. Now that they're both improper fractions, let's do circle. So I'm going to flip it here. Multiplying straight across would be 5 times 1 will give me 5. 2 times 4 would give me 8. So each time this child takes the medication, they're getting 5/8 tablespoons. I want you to pause the video and try some on your own, and when you're ready, hit play to check your answer. Now in this first one is division, so I'm going to flip that second fraction and make it 2 over 1. I'm going to multiply straight across, which is going to give me 8 over 5. That's not pretty. Numerator is bigger than the denominator. If I changed it to a mixed number, 5 goes into 8 one time with a remainder of 3. So 1 3/5 would be my final answer here. I'm going to rewrite this problem as 2 over 1. I'm then going to change it to multiplication and flip that second fraction. 7 times 1 gives me 7. 12 times 2 gives me 24. It can't be reduced, so 7 over 24 is going to be my final answer. Now both of these I'm going to rewrite as improper fractions. 3 times 2 gives me 6. Plus 2 more would give me 8 over 3. 6 times 3 gives me 18. Plus 1 is going to give me 19 over 6. Now I'm going to multiply straight across. 8 times 19 gives me 152. 3 times 6 gives me 18. This is not a pretty fraction. So 152 divided by 18, it'll go in there 8 times. 8 times 18 is going to give me 144. If I subtract 152 minus 144, that's going to give me a remainder of 8. So 8 8/18 would be my answer here, but we know that 8/18 can be reduced down because they're both divisible by 2. So this is going to give me 8 4/9. Now this one says a hotel has 460 rooms. 4/5 are non-smoking. So notice it says of these rooms, 4/5 are non-smoking. How many rooms are non-smoking, and then how many rooms are smoking? Of these rooms indicate we're taking 4/5 of that whole number. So I'm going to rewrite this as 460 over 1 times 4/5. I'm going to multiply straight across, which is going to give me, I'm going to do 460 times 4, which is going to give me 1,840. 1 times 5 is 5. If I divide those two, it goes in there evenly. So we got 368 non-smoking rooms. Now, easy way to figure out your amount of smoking rooms would be to do 460 minus 368 to see how many rooms are left over to be smoking. So then we have 92 smoking rooms. Now let's talk about addition and subtraction. Now, addition and subtraction, the one thing about addition and subtraction is you have to have your denominators the same in order to add these fractions together. Now, if the denominators are already the same, what you do is keep the denominator, and notice you're just adding your numerators together. So 1/7 plus 3/7 gives me 4/7. The tricky part is when you don't have like denominators, so 1/8 plus 2/3, these denominators are not the same. So what we have to do is come up with a common denominator, like we were doing earlier on in part 1. We come up with a denominator that both of them would go into. We change our numerators, so in this case 8 and 3 both go into 24. So we say we multiply by 3 in order to change this fraction by 24. So notice my new fraction is 3/24. We multiply this one by 8, so our new fraction is 16/24, and then we can add those numerators together. Now, I like doing it with a different method, which is something called the butterfly method. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But do know that the concept for subtraction is the same. So as long as the denominators are the same, you can subtract your numerators. If the denominators are different, you have to come up with a common denominator in order to subtract your numerators. Let me show you that butterfly method that I was talking about. So, all right, now let's take a look at addition and subtraction. With addition and subtraction, your denominators have to be the same in order to add them or subtract them. This is what makes addition and subtraction kind of tricky. Now, if the denominators are already the same, great. Add the numerators, keep the denominator. Simplify your final answer. This is where things get tricky. If the denominators are different, you have to come up with a new denominator in order to add those fractions together. Now, I'm going to show you a cool method called the butterfly method for adding and subtracting fractions, which I think is really going to help you and maybe is something that you find easier than maybe the method you were taught earlier on. Subtraction, same concept. If the denominators are the same, subtract your numerators, keep the denominator. Let's look at that butterfly method in just a minute. So let's look at examples here. Both of these examples, the denominators are different. We can't add or subtract them. Now remember, multiplication and division, it doesn't matter. Addition and subtraction, it does matter. So the method that I like to use for addition and subtraction, it looks like a butterfly. It basically uses cross multiplication. 8 times 5 gives me 40. 12 times 2 gives me 24. Now the thing with the butterfly method is a butterfly needs a body. So you have to multiply your denominators as well. 12 times 5 is going to give me 60, sorry. Now this is subtraction, so I'm going to subtract my two numerators here. So I'm going to do 40 minus 24, which is 16. And I'm going to rewrite that over my new denominator that I just got. So my answer would be 16 over 60. Now we know that's not a simplified fraction. If we simplify it, my final answer would be 4 over 15. Let's take a look at that again. 3 times 4 gives me 12. 5 times 1 gives me 5. Multiply the bottom to get my body of my butterfly here, which is going to be 5 times 4 is 20. I'm adding this time. 12 plus 5 gives me 17. I'm going to keep that 20 as my denominator. So 17 over 20 is my simplified answer. All right, pause the video and try these on your own. Now in the first one, I'm going to use that butterfly method again. 12 times 4 gives me 48. 7 times 7 gives me 49. 12 times 7 is going to give me 84. Add my numerators together. 48 and 49 gives me 97 over 84. Now you do want to change it to a mixed number, and for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's going to give you 1 and 13 over 84. This one, you do want to write 5 as 5 over 1 in order to use that method. 5 times 7 is 35. 1 times 5 gives you 5. 1 times 7 gives you 7. Now, 35 minus 5 is going to give you 30. 1 times 7 gives you 7. Changing that into a mixed number is going to give you 4 and 2/7. Now, this last one wants to know a jogger ran 3 1/3 miles on Saturday and then 2.5 miles on Sunday. How much longer did he jog on Saturday than Sunday? That indicates that I'm subtracting. 3 1/3 minus 2.5. Change those to improper fractions. That's going to be 10 over 3 minus 5 over 2. Butterfly method, this is going to be 20, 15, and then 6 here. 20 minus 15 is going to give you 5 with the denominator of 6. So he ran 5 and 6 more on Saturday than he did on Sunday.